Looking at exercise 403, measures of spread. Remember now, you need to know the difference between measures of spread and measures of location. Measures of location, where is it located? Where's the center? Location is center of the data, triple M, median mode. Measures of spread, how spread out is the data? The range, the interquartile range, and the standard deviation. How spread out is it? Now, as you start range, we learned in year 8. It's the simplest type of measure of spread. Interquartile range you would have seen, I think, in year 10 and last year. It gives us the middle 50% of the scores. Reason, you know how it's called interquartile range? It breaks the data up into 4 parts, into quarters, but just looks at the middle quarter. Where's the center, like the middle 50% of the data? The benefit of that is that all the outliers, any outliers are ignored, okay? It really focuses on the middle of the data, the middle 50% of the data. And standard deviation, that you can only calculate that using your calculator in statistics mode. That takes into account every single score. So range is your highest minus lowest score. It's very much affected by outliers. Your interquartile range is your middle, looking at your middle 50% of scores. Outliers aren't they don't affect the interquartile range. Standard deviation takes into account every score. So it's got some special formula, which we will be looking at. Now, as you go down, each measure of spread is more accurate and better. So standard deviation is the best measure of spread because its value, like the mean, depends on every score in the data set. Standard deviation, if you deviate, it's the spread of the scores from the mean. The bigger the deviation, the more spread out the scores. It's like you're walking on a line. If you deviate, aren't you moving away from where you're supposed to go? So the bigger the standard deviation, the more spread out the scores are from the mean. The smaller the standard deviation, the closer the scores are to the mean. Okay? Now, for each data set, we have to find the range, the interquartile range, also the mean and standard deviation. I probably actually should do a small set of scores as well. So, actually I'll start with the stem and leaf plot. That would be easiest because that's just like a set of scores. Okay? All right, let's look at the stem and leaf plot first. So I want to do range, interquartile range, mean, and standard deviation. Real pain to do the mean for this one, but I'll show you a quick way of doing it. Let's go. So, what do we want? The range. So what's the range for this stem and leaf plot? Isn't it the highest score minus the lowest score, which is, what's the highest score? 67. Minus 20 is 47. Now the interquartile range is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile.
We've been asked to determine the range and the IQR, the interquartile range, for these data sets by finding the 5-figure summary. Let's start off by looking at that first data set. Well, the range is the maximum value minus the minimum value, and the maximum here is 20, the minimum is 2, so the range is 20 minus 2, which is 18, in order. And you can see there are 10 values, so that means the median, or Q2, is going to be right in the...
Do you want to write these out in your book or not? Do I have a back page? No. So if there are 10 scores, all right.
Middle there between the 6 and the 8. So the average of 6 and 8 is 7, so the median is 7. Now those two halves are now of equal size. We've got 5 elements in each. The median of the lower half is the lower quartile. So the median is the number 4 here. So the lower quartile is Q1. The upper quartile is the median of the top half, which in this case is 13. So that is Q3 is equal to 13. Or the median is 7, the upper quartile is 13, and the maximum is 20. The interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. So in this case, that's 13 minus 4, which equals 9.
With 9 numbers, okay, so I'll just, the first example had 2, 2, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, sorry, it had 10 numbers, 13, 16, 20. So with the first example that he just showed, there were 10 numbers. So what we say is, I've got 10 numbers. I'm going to break it up into two groups, 5 on the left, 5 on the right. In between that is my median. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's my median. So now I've got 5 numbers in, so that's my median. 5 numbers in my lower group. I'm going to go 2 on the left, 2 on the right, 1 in the middle. And in the upper group, 5 numbers, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, 1 in the middle. Those ones that I've circled there are Q1 or QL. So it's either called Q1 or QL. And 2 on the left, 2 on the right, 1 in the middle. This is called QU or Q3. So interquartile range is Q upper minus Q lower, or Q3 minus Q1, which is 13 minus 4, which is 9. And of course the median here was the average of 6 and 8, which is 7. Now let's say you had 9, an odd number of data scores. So that's with an even number of data scores. So when you're finding quartiles, you've got to split the data in half and then split again. So let's say we had 9 data scores. Let's say we had 1, 1, 3, 4, 6, 6, 8, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 data scores. So I start off with 9 data scores. I can't halve 9. I put 4 on the left, 4 on the right, 1 in the middle. Now this 1 in the middle is my median. That's my median. Now, even number of scores. If I have 4 people, I put 2 on the left, 2 on the right. That's my Q1. It's the average. Yes. And here, 2 on the left, 2 on the right. Splitting that up. Now, be careful. When you start with an odd number of scores, that middle score is not counted in the upper or the lower group. It stays on its own. Okay? I can't say this score, 6 belongs to the lower group, or 6 belongs to the upper group. It belongs to neither group. So 2 on the left, 2 on the right. This will be Q3 or upper quartile. Q1 is lower quartile. Q3 is upper quartile. So coming back, my 9 bits of data, 4 on the left, 4 on the right, 1 in the middle, that's the median. Splitting this lower group in half is there. 2 numbers on the left, 2 on the right. And splitting the upper group in half, 2 numbers on the left, 2 numbers on the right. So this is Q lower, Q upper. So what are all these figures? I know the median is 6. The lower quartile, so QL or Q1, is the average of 1 and 3, which is 2. And upper quartile is the average of 8 and 8, which is 8. The interquartile range is 8 minus 2, which is 6. Now that is how we do interquartile range for small data sets. Yes, upper and lower quartiles, and then subtract. Stem and leaf plot. Coming back to that stem and leaf plot, the range was the highest score minus the lowest, 67 minus 20, which was 47. Now, we also need to do the interquartile range. So we're going to have to work out how many numbers there are. So we've got 20, 23, etc. You can just count these little bits here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is 11, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 numbers. So let's do our little branchy thing. So I've got 21 scores. How many? You can't halve 21. So how many on the left, how many on the right? You can halve 20. 10 on the left, 10 on the right. 1 score in the middle is my median. Let me circle my median. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 scores, and the median. Make sure there's 10 scores after it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So the median is 39. All right? I'm just going to write it here. The median is 39. Now, I have 21 scores. 10 on the left, 10 on the right, 1 in the middle. How do I find my quartiles? The lower 10 scores, 5 on the left, 5 on the right. Upper scores, 5 on the left, 5 on the right. How are we with this? So we've got Q1 and Q3. And that 1 score there was your median. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a line. Make sure there's 5 after it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, beautiful. There's your median. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, put a line. Make sure there's 5 scores after that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. We good? Right, let's work out our lower quartile, or Q1. Q1 is the average of, what's this number? 28 and 33. So it's the average of 28 and 33, which is, I think that's 50, 61, 30.5. Q3 is the average of what and what? 53 and 55. You can even just count 53, 54, 55. 54 is the middle. You know, with 28 and 33, if you write the numbers out, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, you'll find that the middle was not 30 or 31. It was between them, if you did write them out. All right, so the interquartile range is 54 minus 30.5, which is 20 what? Now, see, look how big the range is, 47, highest minus lowest score. Interquartile range is that middle 50% of data. 23.5 is the spread of the middle 50% of data. Now, it also says to work out, this is a real painful one to work out the standard deviation for, and the mean. You have to enter the data into your calculator, and it really is very, very time consuming because there's a lot of scores. But do you know how you would enter this data in? Why don't we try? Yep, we're going to go into stats mode, and you're able to work out the mean and the standard deviation all in one go. I want to do it really in the table as well. So, all right, let's get our calculators out. So go into stats mode. Single data is really easy. You just put the number in and you press M+, or data set, or whatever you press. We go mode, number 2 for this one, stat, 1 variable. Okay, and now we just enter the data on this type of calculator. So this type of calculator is quite easy. You just enter the scores, 20, 23, etc., 24. It would take a while, but... So 20, 23, 24, can you see what I'm doing? Okay, this calculator is quite fine, quite easy to do. 25, etc. I'm not going to do them all. I'm just going to pretend I've done them all, right? Now, when I want to work out the mean, I can just press cancel. I can just go, on this calculator, on top of the number 1, it says stat. So to access that yellow thing, it's shift, number 1, look at your screen, and it does, so it was shift stat number 4, variables. And look, on this screen, you can see N for number of scores, X bar for mean, sigma X, that's the one we're using, population standard deviation, number 3, and SX is sample standard deviation, but the syllabus has changed. You don't use SX, you use sigma X, because SX is for a sample of the population, and sigma X is the whole population standard deviation, and we'll be using that from now on. So if I want the standard deviation, I just press 3, but remember, I haven't entered all the data here. All right? If I want the mean, I press number 2. All right? Calculator, you just go mode, stat, SD, standard deviation. You enter your data. So these are single data scores, so we just go 20, so I'm pressing 20, I believe it's just M+. Okay, data set 1. Next score is 23, so we just go 23, M+. And it will say data set 2, etc. I'll just enter another 2. 24, M+, 25, M+, 28, M+. It's told me I've put in 5 numbers so far, which I have. I'm not going to enter them all. You'll do that later. But to work out your statistics, all the statistics functions are sitting on top of all the keys. You can see them. X bar, mean, is in green. Standard deviation is number on top of the number 6 button. Because they're in green, you access it using the alpha instead of second function. The yellow one is for the yellow functions. The green one is for the green functions. You can also press recall. It does it both ways. So I can go alpha, X bar, gives me the mean. And you press equals and it gives you the mean. But I've only entered 5 numbers so far, okay? And then I can go alpha, number 6 is the standard deviation. And I press equals, and the standard deviation for those 5 numbers is 2.6. But of course, you'd have to enter the whole 21 numbers. You can also press recall, number 4 for mean, and it gives you the mean. So alpha and recall on this calculator are the same. Okay? And I could do recall standard deviation as well, and press, and it will come up. Okay? So for those that have done this, 41 point, let's just go 1 decimal place, 41.3, and the standard deviation, I don't know, look, some people are getting, standard deviation, 13 point, so standard deviation, you don't need to re-enter the data, you can just read it off your calc. Standard deviation, 13.19, we'll just say approximately 13.2, okay? Now, so for that set of data, we've worked out the range, the median, the interquartile range, the mean, and the standard deviation. Now, the measures of spread, median is not a measure of spread, it's a measure of centre. But the interquartile range measures the spread of the middle 50% of the data. Range is highest minus lowest. Standard deviation, we're going to be talking about that more in a couple of weeks, its actual significance. All right, at the moment, it doesn't really mean much to you, but it will soon. All right, now, question 3. Let's look at how to enter this data into a calculator. So, we now have to enter table data. Number 2 occurs twice, number 3 occurs 6 times. We are not going in and entering the data in individually. So what we're going to do first is, we're going to do the range and the interquartile range for this table. So what's your range? Be careful, please. What's the definition of range? Highest score minus lowest score. Be careful. Don't do 6 minus 2. Actually, it is 6 minus. Highest score minus lowest score. Highest score minus lowest score. Look in the score column. It's 6 minus 2, which is 4. Be careful. So I've circled the highest and the lowest scores. Score. Not frequencies, score. Right. How do we do interquartile range? How many scores do you have? 2, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 is my sum of my frequencies. All right, let's start putting some scores here, some there. I've got 16 scores. How many on the left, how many on the right? 8 and 8. Put a line. Halve my lowest set. How many on the left, how many on the right? 4 and 4, put a line. 4 and 4, put a line. So this line is Q1 and this line is Q3. How are we with that? So it's not your 4th number. I'm looking for between the 4th and the 5th. Do you get it? Right. Frequency. How many numbers so far? 1, 2, and then we've got another 6. So what does this data really look like? It looks like this. 2 2s, 6 3s. Do you get what I'm doing? 4 4s. You don't have to write it all out. You just have to picture it in your head. But that is the data. I've just written it out. But if you were looking in the table, look, there's not many scores. You could probably write it out. It might be easier. But if there was a big number, aren't I looking for the 5th and the 6th, the 4th and the 5th numbers? They're both a 3, I can tell. Because I've got 2 2s and I've got another 6 3s. That takes me up to the 8th number. And they're all 3s. So if I want 1, 2, 3, 4, look, you know how I want to put 8? Here's my median, by the way. You know, 8 numbers on the left, 8 on the right, put a line. 1, 2, and another 6, that's 8 numbers, put a line. What's the median if I look at the table? Anyone? No. The median is between there and there. What's the median? Sorry, you can't see my screen. No wonder why. The median is 3.5. Yes, it is. Because, no, it's the average of 3 and 4. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even in the table. 8 scores, put a line, 8 scores. The 8th score is 3 and the 9th score is 4. Can you see that from the table? So the median is the average of 3 and 4, which is 3.5. Q1, the lower quartile. My first two numbers are 2s. The rest after that are 3s. It's got to be 3. Look, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's Q1. Be very careful because Q3 is really difficult to read from the table as well. You know how I've got 8. I'll put a line, that's my median. Split these in half. There's my median, right? If I put another line after the next 4, that's Q3. Because there's 4 above it and 4 below it. So, or here, if I write the data out, can you see it? Really tricky in the table, girls. Really tricky. So, what's Q3? The average of 4 and 5, which is 4.5. So, therefore, the interquartile range is what? 4.5 minus 3, 1.5. Now, you can see how tricky it is to do interquartile range from a table. Very, very tricky. We're going to do it on a dot plot in a minute as well. If you have to, if there's not a lot of scores, write them out. Especially if the question's worth 4 or 5 marks. Write them out. If it's only 16, 20 scores, it's not that much to write out. All right? All right. Now, if you are to do the mean and the standard deviation for this data, you need to know how to enter it on your calculator. So number 1, you have to go in and clear your stats mode. And then we need to go into the calculator and put that table of data in. And it doesn't mean you're going to enter the number 2 twice and number 3 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to enter it as follows. Are we good? Can I move over? This is how we do it. We make sure you clear your statistics mode. So I'm here. Okay, let's go. So mode, just going back into mode statistics will clear it. Mode 2, 1 variable, so number 1. But the thing is there's no frequency column here. So on this type of calculator, the Casio FX82, you have to tell the calculator that you want frequency turned on. So I go shift setup. So with this one it's set up, I believe. Maybe not. No. Maybe I go mode, stat, one variable, no. To turn that frequency function on, it's shift mode, which is in the setup. You arrow down to find stat. So you press number 3 for stat. Frequency on is number 1. So I press the number 1. When I go back to my table to enter my data, so I'll do that again. Shift setup, shift mode, arrow down to statistics number 3. And frequency on is pressing the number 1. Now I'm back in stats mode, 1 variable. So then I go back into mode, stats, 1 variable, and it's got X and frequency. Can you see? You've got your score and your frequency. So then if we want to enter the data from that table, it's 2. Look, some people like to just enter all the scores going down, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then they arrow across to the frequency, go back up, and enter your frequencies as well as 2, 6, 4, 2, 2. 2, down, enter, 6, 4, 2, 2. Now, if you look at your screen, it's as it should be displayed. So you've got 2 occurring twice, 3 occurring 6 times, etc. 4 occurring 4 times, 5 occurs twice, 6 occurs twice. Okay, then you go and work out your mean and standard deviation. So you go shift, stat, so cancel, shift, stat, var, number 4, shift, stat, number 4, I'll do it again, shift, stat, number 1, got to get your statistics, number 4 for variables, and now number 2 would give you your mean, and press equals, mean is 3.75, so your mean is 3.75, shift, stat, variables, and your standard deviation is number 3, and press equals 1.1, let's make it 1.2, okay? So what were those values for mean? Mean and standard deviation. Standard deviation was 1.2, and the mean, shift, stat, 4 for variables, number 1 for number 2 for mean, and it equals 3.75. So the mean is 3.75. That makes sense that the average would be somewhere between 3 and 4, because that's where our median was. All right. What's the mode, by the way, while we're here? What's the mode? What's the mode? It's 3. So that is finding the mean and standard deviation and the range and the interquartile range. Now, you're going to have to clear your stats. The blue calculator, the sharp. So we go mode, stat, which is number 1, standard deviation 0. To enter your data, 2 occurs twice, 3 occurs 6 times. It's 2 STO 2 M plus. 3 STO, can you see what I'm doing? 6 M plus. 4 STO. I know you can't see me pressing the numbers, but 4 M plus. Data set 3. 5 STO, and that's, you can see what the screen looks like. So 5 STO, that happens twice, 2 M plus, and 6 STO 2 M plus. Data set 5. Now, recall or alpha X bar equals, same answer as before, 3.75. Alpha, number 6 is sigma X equals 1.2 approximately. All right? Right. Okay, with this data, it's asking you with question 6 to work out the mean and the standard deviation. But while we're here on the dot plot, we're going to do interquartile range while we're here. Range is really easy. So this is question 6, but we're doing extra. So before we do mean and standard deviation, do you know how you would enter the data into the calculator? 19 occurs how many times? If I want to help you enter the data into the calculator, 19 has a frequency of 1. 20 has a frequency of 2, etc. 21 has a frequency of 4. So you must go in and clear all the data from before. Clear it. Go back into stats mode. Do you get it? 22 has a frequency of 3, and so on. 23 has a frequency of 4. 24, I think, is 6 times. And 25 has a frequency of 5. So if you want to work out mean and standard deviation, you have to put the data into your calculator, and then you're going to work out mean and standard deviation. Right? Now, you can do that at home. Check your answers in the calculator, in the back of the book. Yes. What we're going to practice here now is dot plots, interquartile range. I know they're not asking you, but we may as well do it. So you can do those at home, the others. What's the range? What's the range? Highest minus lowest. What is it? 25 minus 19 is 6. Right. How many scores do we have? We'll have to add them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So what do I do here? I go 25 scores. What do I do now?
12 and 12.
12 and 12, great. And 1 in the middle. That's my median. What do I do with the lower half?
6 and 6.
6 and 6, put a line. 6 and 6, put a line. Let's start. Be careful when you count. You've got to count from the bottom of the rows up, not from the tops of the rows down. So I'm going 6 and a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put a line. That's lower quartile, Q1. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do I put a line or do I actually circle the next one? Let me go back. You should always do your median first. Let me count 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Circle the median. Afterwards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good. Median's correct. Lower quartile, we count 6 and put a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put a line. Now, this is what you don't do. You don't start counting backwards from the bottoms. That's wrong. So after I circle this one, that's that one, I count another 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put a line. If you do want to count from backwards, you must go from the tops of the columns backwards, like you were drawing it. You know, if you're drawing a dot plot, don't you put this dot last? So if you want to count 6 from the back, you have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put a line. But I'd rather you count forward. So that's Q3, where the line is. The median is where the circle is. So, yes, with my median, which is circled, I've circled it here. It is not counted in the 12 on either side because there's 25 dots. I've got 12 dots before the circle and 12 dots after the circle. So after the circle, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put a line. You check that there's 6 after it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 after it. Great. Tell me what the median is. Not that we're asked for it. 23. What's Q1? It's the average of 21 and 21, which is 21. Q3 is the average of 24 and 24, which is 24. And the interquartile range is 24 minus 21, which is 3.